Man, I'm just kind of like pissed off right now because I had like the greatest day and night yesterday because my man Steve Peckman, who's scoring my film, he set up a space where we could work yesterday, halfway between us. Like, he lives down at the Jersey Shore area, I live upstate New York, so we met halfway and we were able to go over the final pieces of the music of my film.
E flat, you replace it with an A natural. E flat to E, A flat to B, D flat to F sharp.
Every time I saw a bridge, I was like...
So, like, this note plays like every 6 measures. There's like a... And so you have a melody, and then you just substitute the one note for the other.
And I'm just kind of in shock, and I'm coughing, and I can't really breathe. A different world. And I was like, whoa. Question. So I was.
And it's really interesting. Like, you know, you can have this. You have the same rhythm, but a very different sounding melody, and then you can write new chords. So so it's not completely foreign, but it's like it's a melodic operation that, you know, tool that you can use.
I mean, he's creating the score. He's got other musicians involved with him, and we were able to go through the whole thing. And so it's pretty much done. We have a couple of adjustments to make, a couple things to do. But I had this big plan where I was up in Spring Valley and Nyack, like in Rockland County, and there's some beautiful areas around there where I wanted to shoot this video and talk to you about this lens, this Helios 44-2 lens. And it rained like really hard this morning. I waited, I went to another spot, it kept raining, then it stopped raining, went to another spot, it started raining again. Then I went over to Westchester, and so here I am close to home where I often am when I do these videos. So I'm going to start this video here, but then I'm going to go inside and finish it because there's some specific things that I'd like to show you. Because I finally got hold of a Helios 44 lens. I've been kind of like wanting one for a long time. People talk about it a lot. I found one for 65 bucks from somebody up in Canada on eBay. And it's been quite the journey to get it to work. You know, I was really frustrated with it, and at first I was just about to like throw it away, to be honest with you. But I finally got it working. I got an understanding of how to use it because it's very unusual. And I wanted to talk to you about it because it looks great. Like, you're looking at it right now, it's on the camera. What I'm going to do after I start this video here is I'm going to talk to you about some stuff that, you know, I could talk about out here. But then I'm going to go inside, put a different lens on the camera so I could actually show you the lens and show you some of the stuff with regards to the aperture, because it's really complicated to get the aperture working, but totally worth it. It's almost got like an anamorphic vibe to it. So I made some notes, which I never do, but there's a lot of reasons why this could be absolutely your only lens. Like, there's no question. This could be a great all-around lens. You could do a whole project with it. You would never have to take it off your camera, except for one thing. There is one thing that might keep it from being your only lens. But I think you could do an entire project, like you could make a movie with this lens, but I don't know if it could be your only lens that you own. And there's only one reason, like one specific reason, so I'll get to that. I'm going to be like a YouTuber and say, I'll get to that towards the end of the video. You could fast forward if you want, but I'm going to get to it afterwards. So anyway, first of all, it's really, really light. Like, that's a great reason to carry this thing around all the time. It's incredibly light. It's like paper. It feels like nothing. It feels like if you ever had a Sony APS-C camera and you had the kit lens, that's how light it is. It feels like a pancake lens. Like, there's no weight to it at all. Now, you have to obviously adapt it to your camera. So I got an adapter for $10. It's really light, a Photesi adapter. I'll show it to you later when I go inside, but the lens is really light, so it's easy to keep around with you all the time. It's not heavy, you don't have to really tend to it. I'm a real run and gun kind of shooter, and so it's really convenient for me to have a lens like that where I could just do whatever I have to do, and I don't really, I'm hard on my equipment, like it's well built. It's got good build quality, but it's really light. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that, oh, and by the way, with the adapter, when I first adapted the lens, the numbers that you use to set your aperture and, your focus and all that kind of stuff were on the bottom. It was upside down, and I thought there was some kind of weird problem, So I had to actually adjust my adapter, and thank God it came with a little Allen wrench, and I was able to rotate it so that it wound up on top. But I pretty much only work with vintage lenses, and that has never happened to me before. But I don't know, maybe that's, something with the Helios lenses, but that happened to me. So just so you know, you might have to adjust your adapter. The other thing, obviously, well, I don't want to say obviously because a lot of people don't know this, but it's an all manual lens, so it's not electronically connected to your camera at all. So it's going to be manual focus, manual aperture, like it's totally independent of the electronics inside your camera. So you got to know how to shoot manually, which personally I love to do because it makes me feel like I'm more part of the process. Just so you know, it's got a 49mm filter thread. So if you want to use an ND filter or a Pro Mist or something like that, which I don't know why you'd put a Pro Mist filter on this lens, because I like to say it's perfectly imperfect, but an ND filter is a must on this lens. And so it's 49mm. The other weird thing, by the way, it's a Helios 44, right? 44-2 in my case. Well, it's a 58mm lens. Don't ask me why they named it Helios 44. I have no idea. I always thought it was a 44mm lens, and it's a full frame lens, but it's 58mm. So it's, longer than a 50mm, like a nifty 50, but it's shorter than 85 or a 75, which a lot of people use for portraits. Personally, I think it's an incredibly convenient focal length. Like 58mm, way cool. Another reason that this could be your only lens, and the other reason that it's really convenient and it's so awesome, is that it's so cheap. Like I've seen these lenses on eBay anywhere from 35 bucks to 200. And I have no idea why the ones that are 200 or $200, like, I don't know, maybe somebody like took it apart and cleaned it and made sure there was no fungus or anything like that. But I would say the average price of these lenses on eBay is between 75 and 100 bucks. Like you could definitely get one for 85 bucks. The one that I got happened to be the one that is the most sought after of the Helios lenses, and it was only 65 bucks, so I jumped on it. But there are different types of Helios lenses. There are like little icons on it, which I'm going to show you when I go inside. This is something that's really important because this affects the build quality of the lens and the overall usage of it. Like they're different. So I'll get into that when I get inside. And that's what I want to talk about. There are different types. So the other thing, like I just talked about, it's a 58mm lens. It's a great portrait lens, like incredible. If you like to do portraits anywhere from 50 to 85, it's an incredibly great, convenient lens for portraits, and it looks awesome. And it's really, really uber sharp in the middle. Like it falls off on the edges and stuff like that, but that's why you would want this lens. Just like any, vintage lens, you're not looking for the sharpest kind of Sigma, Sony G Master type of lens. You're looking for a lens that has character, that looks different, that looks unique unto itself. And so, it looks great. Landscapes look great. Like you can see behind me right now. I'll show you a few shots of landscape, like far away stuff. It looks beautiful for landscape photography too. Think of a 50mm just a little bit longer, and it works great. It's really, really beautiful. I think that it's not just great for video, it's a great photography lens as well. Personally, I think it's really, really great for video, and a lot of the reason for that is the way the aperture ring works, and also because it's so light. But I think it's great for photography and video, so that's the other thing that's really, really cool. The bokeh is amazing. It's very, very kind of anamorphic. The colors are incredible. It's got just a ton of character. So anyway, that's all I wanted to talk about out here. I'm going to take this inside and finish this because there's some stuff I want to talk about regarding the Aperture Ring and how this works, and just a few other things that I think I'd rather talk about and show you. So let's leave this beautiful place and go into my apartment and finish this video. All right? So I'm going to walk over right now and I'm going to turn it off, and then I'm going to make believe that right after I turn it off, I'm going to be in my apartment right now. All right, I'm in my apartment. No great setup or anything like that, but I just wanted to finish this video. So the weird thing about these Helios lenses is the aperture ring, or how you deal with the aperture. There's actually 2 aperture rings, and I'm not an expert on this, and I'm going to leave a link in my description of a video that you should absolutely watch before you buy any of these lenses. Like, don't just go to eBay and buy any Helios lens, because it's not consistent across the board that all of them are great. And so you really have to do some research and find the right one. I'm not an expert at that, so I'm going to leave this link, but I am going to show you a couple of things. So first of all, I did want to show you the adapter. So this is actually a Photesi adapter. I'll show you some close-ups of it, but this is one that I use for my Sony APS-C, but the one on my Helios lens looks exactly the same. I don't know if you can see that, but anyway, I'll show you some close-ups that you're probably seeing now. Photesi, they're like $10 or $11 on Amazon, and they work great. You know, you don't have to worry about anything because they're not electronically connected to your camera anyway. You just have to make sure that you can mount them. In my case, I'm using a Panasonic S5, so I needed an L mount. So you just look for Helios 44, like a 44 to L. They're easy to find. Just search Helios to L mount or Helios to E mount or whatever yours is, okay? So what I wanted to show you was this aperture ring. There are 2 aperture rings. So the first is the top, and I'm going to show you some close-ups of this too, but I could show you here. There's like a ring at the top that's kind of hard to move, and you choose your aperture anywhere from f2 to f16. That's it. And then there's a second aperture ring so the first one, it's hard to move. It's kind of stiff. But the second one moves really easy, and it feels almost like a focus ring. But the focus ring is here, lower down. And the focus ring moves like any other focus ring. And you could see all the numbers in here, the numbers and stuff on this lens right here. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm showing you close-ups right now. So anyway, the second aperture ring moves easily. So what the deal is that, and what's really weird, is that you set your aperture, let's say, to f8, okay? And then the ring that's closer to the camera, that moves more freely, that also changes the aperture. And it almost, like, at first I thought it was working like an ND filter because obviously it was making the image brighter and darker. But then I realized it was actually changing the aperture because the blurry background, the depth of field was changing as well. And so that's why what it does is kind of work backwards, because the second ring, you can see the numbers, but they're literally backwards. So f16 is actually f2. And I have no idea why they did that. It's just the way it is. It's really complicated. Also, how far you can move the second ring is determined by the aperture that you choose. So if you choose f2, you can't even move the second ring. It just keeps you at f2. But if you choose f16, you have the full range of motion, so you can change it from f16 to f2. And I have no idea why. If you go to f5.6 or 7.1 or f8 or f4, you can move it a little bit less. And so in the case of f4, you can only go from f2 to f4. If you choose f8 on the ring that's more difficult to move, you can only go from f8 to f2. You can't go beyond that. And so, very strange. Do your due diligence. Do your research. It's really weird to use, but I found that once I got used to it, it's really kind of cool. Like, if you're shooting, let's say in the dark at night, you know, in low light kind of circumstances, and you don't really care that much about the depth of field, you can kind of use it like an ND filter, you know, just to get as much light in as possible, or if you want to pull back on the light a little bit, or whatever you want to do. But just know that when you move that second ring, you are changing the depth of field. You are actually changing the aperture that you thought you already set on the first ring. So I know I sound like a crazy person right now, but this lens is kind of crazy. As far as the focus, you have to remember something else. Like right now, I'm using a Minolta 28mm. It's called a Telesor lens. It's an old vintage lens, an f2.8. Also adapted to my Panasonic S5. You have to remember that when you use an adapter, if you are on a set and you're measuring the focal distance, like if you're looking at your lens and it says 8 feet, and then you're trying to measure 8 feet, it's probably not going to be accurate because you are using an adapter. And so just know that, you know. But as far as everything else, the focus ring on this Helios lens is really smooth. It works great. And this lens is super sharp, like really, really sharp. You know, it's crazy. It's like you're used to YouTubers doing this, right? But that's only with autofocus lenses. I can't do that. So you can't really, this is blurry because I'm focused manually right now. So anyway, I say all of this to say that why do you use a lens? Why do you choose a lens? You choose it because you like the way it looks. You're either looking for a neutral look where you can control it in post, or you're just looking for a natural look, or you're looking for some character in the case of vintage lenses or anamorphic lenses. You're looking for a little bit more style, like a little bit more vibe. And so if you're looking for that, these Helios lenses are really dope. Like they're really, really cool. They look very unusual. I mean, this one does. And I think that they all kind of look individual unto themselves. You know, like I'm pretty sure that most of these lenses have their own character. Although, you know, thousands and thousands of them were manufactured, you know, from, I guess, the late 60s, I think, all the way up until sometime in the 70s. And don't quote me on that. I'm not sure. I'm not a Helios, you know, historian or anything like that. But I do know that these were very, very common, and that's why they're so cheap and so easy to find. But again, do your due diligence. I encourage you to watch the video that I show in the description before you buy anything. But then just know that you can get a lens like this for anywhere from $65 for $100, and you can have something that's really, really good. Also something that allows you to work manually. So, you know, in my case, I enjoy working manually. It makes me feel like I'm more a part of the creative process, and you get something that looks really, really awesome, you know? Like, personally, I find that when I use my Sigma 28-70 f2.8, obviously it's an autofocus lens, it's connected to the camera, I can control my aperture through the camera. It's just like, I mean, it's cool because it's really about the story. And I'm really just trying to make a movie, and it doesn't really matter what I have on the camera. It's more utilitarian. But if I'm being really honest, I enjoy working with manual lenses more and anamorphic lenses more because I'm more a part of the process. It's kind of like driving a clutch, you know? And some people don't want to do that, and some people have no interest in that. And I'm sure many people are watching this going, why don't you just get the Panasonic S5 Mark II so you have, you know, phase detect autofocus, and you don't have to worry about any of this. And, you know, why even deal with your aperture? Why don't you just, like, you know, make sure that the aperture is connected to one of the buttons on your camera or one of the dials? And it's just not the way I enjoy working. It's not that I don't enjoy working the other way, because at the end of the day, I'm really most interested in what the image is going to look like if I can reproduce what I have in my head, and if I can tell a visual story exactly the way I want to tell it. But using a lens like this really enhances the process. And, you know, I was talking to Steve last night while we were going over my movie about how, in my opinion, the most important thing about art of any type, whether you're a musician or a filmmaker or a theater artist or a sculptor or a painter or whatever, the day-to-day process is the thing.
I wasn't even really doing that for the film. I was just doing it. It was just like an idea that I had, and then I was just like, oh, this is really cool. And then I wound up using it like 3 times in the films.
Because what else is there really other than, let's say you win an Academy Award, or let's say you win a Grammy, or you win some gigantic grant or whatever. Like, that's one day. That's one day. Now, you know, those things might give you monetary wealth as well, which helps your life, obviously, and you can start to do other things. But the process of making art, the day-to-day, the learning, the growth, the evolution, you know, the way that you grow as an artist and as a human being, that's what it's really about, you know. It's not about those 5 magical moments of your life where you reach the pinnacle of success and you got everything that you were looking for. It ain't about that. You know, that's cool, and everybody wants that, but it's really about the day-to-day, you know? Like, what are you doing every day of your life to be a better artist, to learn more about your craft, to become better at it, to become more in tune with whatever you're using to express yourself, whether it's just your body. Like, you know, I'm a solo theater artist. Sometimes I just get on stage and it's just about me and my body. My voice, my body, my storytelling, my moving around stage is just me. But in the case of making a film, it's me and my camera and my lenses and my sound equipment and my lights. You know, then it becomes more involved. And the closer I get to mastering everything that I use, the closer I get to being able to express myself in exactly the way that I want to, right? Like they say, the right tool for the job. It doesn't matter what the right tool is unless you know how to use it, right? And so, anyway, that's my conversation about the Helios lens. I highly recommend it. I absolutely love working with it. It's great. It's going to be a cool part of my arsenal. And, oh, so the one thing that you can't do that makes this lens not awesome to use, well, let me show you instead of telling you, and then I'll explain it too. So let me switch real quick. So what's the one problem? What's the one issue with this lens? Well, this is it. I'm in the exact same position that I was in with my 28mm lens, and as you could see, it's 58mm. So what's the issue to keep it from being your only lens, or, you know, a lens that you could do everything with? It's probably difficult to vlog with. You know, like, I'm arm's distance from the lens right now, and I'm pretty far away, as you could see. I mean, I'm pretty close. You know, I look really close. Some people like this, and, you know, this look is usable for films too. You know, people do use it, and you get a nice depth of field. You see behind me, it's pretty cool. But if you're vlogging a lot, you're probably not going to be happy about this as your go-to lens, not to mention that it's a manual focus lens. Now, if you're shooting at 28mm or 24 or 20, and you can, you know, easily put yourself in focus manually because the camera is just like, you know, a couple of, like 1 foot or 1.5 feet from your face. But with a 58mm, like, I got to get way back to even get this look, and this is just like, it's too tight, right, for vlogging. So here's the thing. I shoot movies by myself, right? Like, I'm the only actor. I'm shooting, I'm directing, I'm doing everything. I'm doing the lights, I'm doing the sound. And so if I do that, it's really hard for me to only have a Helios lens if I'm always focusing on myself, if I'm doing close-up stuff, right? Because it's just going to be more difficult. I can do it, but it's just more difficult, right? However, I will say this. If you're just a director or a filmmaker and you're not the actor, if you're always behind the camera and not in front of the camera, if you're not doing much vlogging, this could certainly be your only lens, because you can get any look that you want. And it has a pretty close minimum focusing distance, you know. I think it's less than 1 foot. Don't quote me on that, I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure it's less than 1 foot. And like I said, it's really a sharp lens, especially in the middle. And so anyway, that's my conversation. I'm not going to call it a review because, you know, I'm just trying to be in focus here. I'm shooting at f2.8 and it's kind of tough. You know, I don't really want to call it a review. It's just my experience with it. I highly recommend it if you're asking or if you care. And yeah, that's all I got to say about it. So thanks so much for watching. And we will see you on the next. Oh, please subscribe and please hit the like button, all that kind of YouTube stuff. And I will see you on the next video. Peace. All right, all of that. Okay.